Let's take a close look at how the globalized garment industry affects labor. In the US, most of the fashion manufacturing sector sends its production overseas to countries in the global south, to where labor is considered cheap and there are lower environmental standards, all of which create unsafe work conditions for workers there. As a result, this creates economic pressures for manufacturing businesses that struggle to remain in the US. To stay competitive, they too must lower work standards, which means pay cuts and reduced benefits for workers here. Who is affected most by this are low-wage workers, both globally and locally. The relationship between the two is undeniably interdependent. In New York City, the majority of low-wage workers are immigrant women of color with little formal education. Immigrants make up 40% of New York City's total population, and despite their high participation in the labor market, they are more likely to be in poverty than any other New Yorker. The service industry is accessible to a large number of low-income immigrants because it does not require a higher education. While it may be an appealing option, and many of these jobs are now honored as essential, it funnels an entire class of people into jobs that offer less than a living wage, little job security, and very few, if any, health or retirement benefits. A woman I spoke to had this to say: "I called in with a fever and couldn't go to work, and they said, okay, you can have the day off, but we will have to take the pay from yesterday as a penalty." Our capitalist system is not working for everyone. New York City's creative industry has a diversity problem. It's the focal point of countless forums I attended. Data shows that people of color represent 66% of the city's total population, yet they account for only 34% of the workers in all creative occupations. Lack in racial diversity and an ever-widening income gap further reinforces the class divide in the city's creative economies. Luckily, there are many social enterprises that are pushing towards economic inclusion in underinvested immigrant communities. I partner with Custom Collaborative, a unique workforce development program based in Harlem, championing low-income women immigrants as entrepreneurs and designers in the fashion industry. Their program has 3 parts: a comprehensive 14-week training program that equips students with essential technical skills to enter the fashion industry. Graduates of the training program can then become part of the business incubator, which fosters personal growth and professional advancement for their entrepreneurship path. And perhaps most impactful, the opportunity to become the co-owner of a worker-led manufacturing cooperative. Custom Collaboratives often ask, what's your traditional participant look like? It's a range. They're not just trying to force people into one pathway. They're asking, what is it that they would like to do? This leads me to my thesis statement. How might we support social enterprises working on local manufacturing efforts to create more inclusive pathways into the creative economy for low-income immigrant women? Meet Sonia. She's Custom Collaborative's non-traditional student. Let's find out what she wants to do. Sonia migrated here 5 years ago and is undocumented. As an English language learner with GED, she works at a restaurant, but her salary keeps her below the federal poverty level. She's a single mother and lives month to month in her Harlem apartment. Sonia's grandmother taught her how to sew at a young age. She's always dreamt of becoming a designer, but this design school is unaffordable. Here's where Custom Collaborative's training program comes in. It includes a stipend for weekly training and even pays for her MetroCard. After finishing her 14-week training program, Custom Collaborative helps find an internship for her in New York City's fashion industry, leading her to an entry-level position as a technical designer. She's begun to live her dreams. From there, Sonia decides to join Custom Collaborative's business incubator, where she not only hones her marketing skills, but becomes a part of the community of like-minded creatives. This helps her launch her new fashion brand online. She is now a designer and a small business owner. The demand for Sonia's designs go up, and she produces her line locally at the co-op with members of her own community. She later decides to join as co-owner because it gives her a stable income, health insurance, flexibility to work from home when her daughters need her, and a pathway to citizenship. Here's what I learned through prototyping with Custom Collaborative's founder and director of strategy. The Business Incubator program is crucial in supporting entrepreneurship and co-ownership pathways, but it's complex. It's an incubator, makerspace, a space for community, a place for learning and working. It does a lot, and it's tough for people to understand it. One of its members describes it as being like a job, but also like tutoring. It's an opportunity to learn. Which brings us to the second challenge. There are barriers for graduates while in the business incubator, but they are difficult to gather. Custom Collaborative needs to hear directly from graduates about their own barriers, but it's difficult because most graduates work several jobs while juggling childcare, a combination that takes up all of their time. During a meeting, the director was surprised to see so few in attendance and asked, "Why aren't more of you here?" A woman offered, "Because we were raised to live paycheck to paycheck." It's hard for these graduates and prospective co-op members to make time for their future when all their energy is spent just getting by in the present. The third challenge is that co-op members need support, but it should be worker-led. The very first incubated worker co-op comprised of Custom Collaborative's graduates is being formalized in the next coming months. Members need support transitioning into co-owners and a way to share their feedback to Custom Collaborative's team. I realized there was a gap in support for graduates transitioning to co-op owners and for Custom Collaborative in gathering those needs. My intervention aims to bridge this gap in order to make more paths for immigrant women to access the creative industry. So how do you gather experiences and hardships from immigrant women creatives who are spread so thin? You make the process centered on their needs. Which brings me to my intervention, Workways, a worker-centric data gathering toolkit built to amplify equity building models that provide direct pathways for immigrant women of color into New York City's creative economy. I've defined 3 principles that make up equity building models. First is that it serves underinvested communities. Second, it builds capacity. And third, focus on empowerment through co-ownership. So how does it work? Essentially, it's a collection mechanism with a bottom-up approach that meets the community's struggle against time head-on. Workers benefit from participatory data gathering workshops, which are facilitated by the worker co-op lead or a designated member. The toolkit can be accessed through an online platform. To meet the community where they're at, workshops can be either live or remote, with some activities designed for existing mobile-friendly digital devices. The designs of the activities range from simple analog worksheets and do-it-yourself exercises to pre-designed digital presentations with a comprehensive facilitation guide. The co-op lead or co-op member uses the feedback template to report the outcomes anonymously back to their partnering social enterprise. The workshops are designed to capture narrative data based on 3 focus areas: self-actualization, skill assessment, and secure livelihood. Let's take a look at our workshops with 7 founding members of Custom Collaborative's first incubated worker co-op. In the first workshop, the group was guided by a series of prompts in 2 different areas of self-actualization: how they see themselves as creatives and how they see themselves as business owners. The open discussion format allowed for an exploratory and lively atmosphere, where even some of the more typically timid felt open to sharing. For example, here are 2 contrasting opinions from the group, each having a strong point of view on how they themselves relate to design identities. One of the women shared that it allowed her the space and time to be able to express herself. It's clear the women have different ways of identifying, but to be able to hear it being expressed was exciting. The second workshop focused on a playful card sorting assessment game designed to gauge skill sets and their level of confidence. It also revealed the skills that they felt they needed to further their career goals. While reflecting on the skills they have gained, we learned that they have a wide range of skills they can collectively draw upon. This gave way for an honest conversation around how they can leverage their skills when coming together to build a collaborative culture. The need for this exercise to be designed in 3 different formats is exactly what I mean by meeting the community where it's at. COVID-19 forced us all to work remotely, so there was a need to do this online. We busted out our scissors and adapted the exercises to be more do-it-yourself style. For Women on the Go, the co-op lead and I co-designed a digital version using existing platforms that are easily compatible with Slack and WhatsApp. The responses were great, and we had 100% participation, which the co-op lead said they had difficulty getting before this intervention. We are seeing the fault lines in our economic and social systems that disadvantaged communities have always experienced. The people we rely on most are also the most vulnerable, essential low-wage workers tasked with doing crucial work during a dangerous time without financial security or health benefits. In our manufacturing sector, local garment workers are rising to the challenge by manufacturing personal protection equipment for frontline workers. This continued demand means that many U.S. factories remain open, which puts workers at risk. In this time of global pause, what exploitative and extractive models do we choose to leave behind? And what models do we put in place that are life-giving and bring us into a just future?